earlier tonight for the last hour or so. I just want to I first thank Brother Minister Jeffrey for the invitation, which provides me with an opportunity to share what God blessed me to know, whatever it may be. We're born into this world and we are here but for a short time. If you live 2,000 or 10,000 years, that's rather short time in contrast to eternity, isn't it? You know, if we live 50,000 years, that's nothing compared to forever. But while we're here, we have an obligation. That obligation is to grow and, among other things, learn all that we can and accurately pass it on to the others in such a manner that the others outgrow ourselves. Okay? And I hope that you will take this to heart. I didn't come here to make speeches this weekend, but you have to make speech in order to get certain things done. My focus is not on the speech, but I want to make a difference in this mosque this weekend. And I'm going to continue what pleases Almighty God Allah, what I did last weekend in Cleveland, Ohio. And Brother Minister Jeffrey has the tapes of what I did there and some other things. And I hope that you will take this as a couple of pages out of a large book, okay? And take it and use it and get it, squeeze all the juice out of it, and make progress in such a way that when I'm blessed to see you again, be it the will of Allah, you will have outgrown me and what I've said to you this weekend. Okay? I intend to try my best to make it that simple and that clear and do it in a way where that takes place. This is my first time seeing this, and I think it's beautiful. Very, very, very significant black man. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Farrakhan looks great. This paper should sell. Easy. Now, here's what I came to say very simply. And call this, if you will, God and study. It's not going to be very deep or in-depth, just a few minutes to say something very important that I want you to build on, study on yourself. We were taught by someone who met him. I didn't meet him, Master Farad Muhammad, that he spent 42 years of his life in a special study, preparing himself to come here and do what he did. Didn't mean he didn't study afterwards, but it took that long to get to a certain point that he could move and do what he had to do over here. The only picture that the vast majority of us have of him is with his head down holding a book, which we were told was the Holy Quran. That picture means study. I got that from the mouth of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I had heard it before. But one day he was sending me to Las Vegas to do something for him, and it wasn't to gamble. And he was pulling out his phone book, and in the phone book was this picture, which I had already seen. I had a copy of it myself. And he looked at it, and we talked about it in a few minutes, and he said, "Brother," he said, "this picture means study." And Master Farad Muhammad made it for him. He made another picture, at least one other, where he was looking full face, and that picture he gave to Kalat. Kalat was one of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's brothers who rebelled on his brother. He wanted his brother's place. And of course, fell in 1935. I think the month was August. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad studied. Now, when we say study, most of us think about reading a book. Well, if you don't know no place else to start, that's as good a place as any to start. Though some of us can read signs of nature. I have a daughter that can read the clouds. I can't read the clouds like she does, you know, but she studied them so much so she can tell approximately how high they are. And she's able to read the skies. There are other people who know how to read the stars at night, who using a sextant can be out on the sea or in the desert, and they can tell by the position of the stars with respect to themselves where they are. I personally don't know how to do that. So reading takes many forms, but that form which is absolutely crucial for what we are about, and that is we're about the business of becoming a holy nation. You must pick up the scriptures and read them, and pick up those other words from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and our brother Minister Farrakhan and read them, which help us understand what's in the books, the Bible and Quran. Does that make sense? And now Minister Farrakhan also did a lot of reading. Let me backtrack a minute. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I remember one day me giving him the newspaper that came out in Phoenix, the Arizona Republic. And he said to me very gently with a little smile on his face, "No, brother, you read it." And he said it in a way as to indicate he really didn't need to read it. There were times one time when he told me which of the local news to look at because it was the most accurate of the three. I couldn't tell. It was news to me, but I couldn't tell which one was the most accurate. You hear what I'm saying? He was an above average man in mind and sight. But he did a lot of reading. He went to the Congressional Library, and he said that he went there studying for 7 years. For example, the human body, just like a person going to college. He studied. He was guided in his study. Master Farad Muhammad's father took his son into the vault when he was 4 years old, which would be sometime in the year of 1881. Born 1877 at the age of 4. Okay? He formally began what was to be a 42-year study. I want you to think on the dates. Think on it. Took him into the vaults to read that which people are not allowed to read. And think about the keepers of the vault who are so disciplined they don't read what they're not supposed to read. Most of us come out of a nosy environment. I don't say that you are nosy, but there's a tendency among people to be very nosy, to stick their nose in that which is not their business. But it is our business today to know the Word of God. That is our business. Okay? Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad studied. His teacher before him studied. Minister Farrakhan after him studied. Some of you have heard what Minister Farrakhan said. He used to study all day long. Sometimes go and run out of the room, go on a fast and study all day long. If you study long enough and deep enough, there comes a point in your life where not that you don't need to study, but you study quicker. You learn things faster. You can read quicker. You hear people say something and you see all into it quicker. Maybe you've already experienced it in some measure. I know that you probably have had the experience at least once where you pick up something and you read it out of the writings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Mr. Farrakhan, or even the scripture. You put it down, you pick it up a year later, it's like you never saw it before. The words, of course, have not changed. You have. Correct? Meaning you've grown. Now, does God study? And if so, why? There's every reason to think God studies from his own word. He makes decisions. He evaluates situations. Even evaluates people. And on some occasions, depending upon them, he may change his mind about what he's going to do to them or for them. Does not those words imply study? To make a decision implies study. I don't care how quick the study was. There's still time is involved in study. If it takes a minute, that's still 60 seconds. So study. Does anybody have a definition of study that absolutely satisfies everything that you can think of that study is? I'm going to ask you to do something. And I'm going to ask you tomorrow to respond to the same question. I want you to go home and look up every book you've got tonight. It won't take you but a minute on study. Get a definition of it. If you get a definition of it, you will understand what you've done tonight better. Definitions are important. The human being needs definition. Without definitions, there's no real understanding. Have you ever looked up a word and then found other words that you didn't understand that made up the definition of the word you were looking for? Now you're obligated to look up those words. And then there'll be another set of words that you yet don't understand, and you may wind up spending 4 or 5 hours. But as a result, you come out of that with a sharper mind. You literally have advanced or improved your mind. You literally have added physical weight to your own mind. Did you know that? As you develop, as you look up words and you're studious and this is exciting, and you go from one word to the next and things begin to get clear. There's little connections, little things going on in your brain that literally add weight to your mind. You ever heard of somebody referred to as lightheaded or lightweight? has a lot to do with your brain. Okay? So much for that. Now, does God have to study to maintain his divinity? Does God have to study to maintain his sovereign position over creation? Master Farad Muhammad studied and he outgrew his father. Elijah Muhammad studied. He has not outgrown his father, his teacher. But he sure has grown. Minister Farrakhan studied. He has not outgrown his teacher. He never will. As Elijah Muhammad will never outgrow his teacher. Why? Have you thought into that? Have you ever studied anything that bored you to death? And that means that was something that you were kind of pressed into studying or made to do or else. And you didn't want the or else, so you plodded through it, though it was boring and you hardly got through it and oh boy. I once talked to a young sister some years ago. His mother approached me, a good sister in the nation. As she told me, Brother Jabril, my daughter, looks like she's about to bail out of high school. She's about to graduate. She's about to quit. She's bored. She's a smart little sister, pig-free baby, you know. So I said, sure. So I talked with my sister on the phone about an hour and a half. Guess what we talked about? Boredom. I talked right into boredom. I didn't press her with a definition, but I got her to tell me why she was so bored. And we made the discussion of boring and boredom interesting. So much so that she promised me, without me ever pressing her, to engage again in these boring subjects in an interesting way. And as a result, she graduated from high school. Now, what makes anything that you gotta do interesting if you gotta do it? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about boredom? And what makes you bored? What makes you disinterested in a subject? You don't care nothing about it. It could be maybe how it's presented. That has something to do with it. But leaving aside all those other factors, have you ever studied why you don't like it? Because that tells you something about yourself. Look at this. One of the most important things that every human being is faced with is, who am I? Not who are we, but who am I? Oh, I'm happy to know who we are, but I still want to know who I am. I know what we are to do as a nation, but what am I to do with my life? Everybody is face to face, earlier or later, with the question of, what was I cut out for? And you'll never be a happy man or woman without confronting it and having it solved in your personal life. Okay? And we all have a duty to help each other with that process. I'm not going to ask you by no show of hands on that, but just, I want you to think about it just for a moment. And I'm going to say one thing after this and step aside and get out of the way. The simple suggestion I've made to people is this. Get a piece of paper. Write down everything you like to do. If it's 1, 5, 50, 100, write it all out. Just put it down. You may or may not at that stage know what that kind of work entails, whether it means working more outside or inside, whether it means working with a lot of people or a few people or nobody, whether it involves your hands and your brains or with physical instruments. You follow me? That you may not know, but at your present moment you write down anyway. Let 2 or 3 days go by. Why? Because your subconscious is working on the problem. Give that rest of yourself time to work on it. Then you pick the piece of paper back up. Then you write from those on another sheet the things you like best out of that page, because that's automatically going to happen. Put that aside. Keep doing this until you get to a point where you wind up with a number of things, whatever the number may be, 5, 10, 15, 20, and you say, well, I like them all the same. Stop. Now this is telling you something about yourself. Okay? There used to be a book, and I hope you can find it, 1967 Department of Commerce, book about all kind of jobs and careers and whatnot all over the country. I don't know if they still have anything like that or not, but that's an excellent reference book, 1967. I picked that book up years ago for my children, then things went different in my life, and I never did buy them what I should have with respect to that tool. Very excellent tool. This book would show you where you go in the country to get the proper training to enable you to succeed in that area. Tells you the good schools, 1, 2nd grade, 3rd, 4th. Then it tells you generally what they call the aptitude required for success, what the pay scale is. Wouldn't you like a book like that? But you know something? Even after you get a book like that as a Muslim, candidates for the kingdom of God, that wouldn't be enough. That doesn't tell you. It tells you certain things about yourself, but it doesn't tell you what peculiar characteristics or qualities of God you were given. Again, here's a simple way of getting to that. Get the 99 names of God. Those names are like this. Just use your imagination. Here's God and here you are. He says, here's what I'm composed of. Here is my nature. I'm beneficent. I'm merciful. I'm this. I'm that. I'm the other. And these are names. Get dictionaries and study these names. The names are like bridges that you go across to get into God's mind as best you can, and by his permission, to see him as he sees himself. Got that? Clear, isn't it? If you do that, then you watch your own reaction to these various qualities. Some of them seemingly on the surface appeal to you more than others. Some you say, I'm like that, to some degree. Well, that I never thought of. And watch carefully your own reaction to the, if I can put it this way, components of the nature of God. I don't mean just his character. I'm talking about the actual nature, which he expresses perfectly. And this will give you some insight into yourself in a small way, but it gives you insight into self. And you sisters are raising children. You would do better raising your children if you raise those children with the attributes of God in mind. And the more you are able to define each of them, the more you can see them in their budding state in a child, and you can begin after a while to begin to cultivate these qualities in the child by things you do externally that elicit from the child responses. We all know, generally speaking, you pick a baby up, you hug the baby, pat the baby, kiss the baby, baby smiles. Right? Because you're teaching the baby. You love the baby, but you at the same time teaching the baby maybe without paying any attention to it. Aren't you? You are fostering or eliciting, or I would say another word, like you, those of us who came from the South, how you put water in a well to do what? Prime it. What does priming it mean? What does that mean? Who said that? You got it. See, because you are doing something to bring out what's already there. If there's no water there, you're pouring water don't mean nothing. Right? The water's already sitting there. You're trying to bring out what's already there. Now, the baby already has the nature of God. What you're doing is priming the various characteristics we call the attributes. But attribute is a word that's okay under certain circumstances, but quality is better. But do you know what the word quality, characteristic, and attribute mean? What do they mean? And then what do they mean in relation to the other? You have to know what these terms mean because it's about you. Follow me? Now, you're used to getting out of here at 9:30 on a Friday, and now it's 9:36. So I'm going to take a couple more minutes and then get out of the way. But does this make you think? Are you interested in yourself? That's like saying it's water wet. Of course you are. Now, I intend, by the help of Almighty God, Allah, tomorrow and the next day, to, I'm calling the seminar tomorrow, Self First. What time is it to begin? But does that mean we're all going to be here 8 o'clock? So you already are predicting, based on past experience, that everybody's not going to be here. Well, it's a fact that you understand the present in terms of yesterday. The more you know of history, the better you can understand today. And we have a brother and some others coming from Arkansas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. I'm told where else? Texarkana. Where's Texarkana? Texarkana far from here? And the brother coming from, the ones coming from Little Rock. Well, I'll get here at 8 and we'll see the situation, survey the land. But it's not good to be late. Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that some of our people will lose their salvation behind late labor. So it's better to be here than see the situation. I don't mind starting later. I don't want anybody to miss none of this. You start right off, there ain't going to be no introduction. The introduction, if anything, is tonight. Okay? We're going to start right. And when I came in this room looked different to me. I know I saw partitions, but it still seemed like the last time I was here it got bigger. Now, either I got bigger, and that probably didn't happen, or the room shrunk, or maybe it's my imagination, which is not right about how this room last looked. But you had a lot of people in here when I was here last. Well, how many? Was it over 200 people? Can you get that many people in this room still? And the walls haven't shrunk. This is deep. Pardon me? Maybe it's just impacting my mind in a certain kind of way. Okay. So now, are you going to try what I just said? Now, you may or may not be in jobs that satisfy you. When you say satisfy you, you mean it satisfies your particular makeup. Some of you may have the same job in the same office or plant or whatever, but you are not exactly the same as your brother and sister. So, you know what I mean? You're going to extract something from that kind of work that's different from what he or she is going to get, owing to a lot of variables, background, this, that, and the other. You will never be satisfied doing what you don't want to do. You don't want to be in a situation like that. Some men will take, like Ken Griffin. He'd rather take, hey, I'm already making millions. What the hell? I don't need another $2 million. I want what's satisfactory to me. That's intelligent. That reduces the stress factor. The dude who just chases the money, yeah, he or she will be out of here fast. See? You don't measure success by dollar bills, although there are people who do that. But that's not the way to do it. The Honorable Muhammad didn't become a millionaire until the 1970s. And if he was in what he was doing for money, that he could have been a millionaire long before that. Daddy Grace, Father Divine were millionaires, talking nothing, talking garbage and running games on people. Okay, so that's what I want to put on your mind. I want you to know that I promised myself, and I told the believers in Phoenix in the tape, end of last month, that I may not remember it exactly as I said it, but I was going to give it my best shot this last month of the year, last month of the decade, last month of the millennium, or this last 100 years. And I said, if I died in the process of trying to help others this month, to hell with it, I would do that. I'm about as mentally exhausted as I've ever been in my life. If you ever experienced mental exhaustion, you almost hit like a wall, and you can't think. You know what I mean? You ever been in that state? But my anecdote for that is prayer. That's it, because I ain't got no time to study nothing. I've been traveling now 11 or 12 or 13 weeks, I forgot. And after a while, the cities begin to run together. I wake up sometime in my own house and don't know where I am. I said to myself, boy, you just about hit it. And I was like that a couple of weeks ago. I woke up in my own bedroom about 5 o'clock and didn't know where I was. It took me a few minutes to figure it out. And I said to myself, wow, how'd you get like this? Well, I'd rather go out this way than to go out sitting on a soft couch, man, watching Mickey Mouse or Looney Tunes or some jackass sitcom on TV. You hear what I'm saying? I had a brother, secretary, some years ago, died while he was talking to the believers about charity. He fell dead. They said he looked peaceful, he collapsed. I said, man, in a way, that was a good death. Since you got that to do, why not do it while you're taking care of business for others? Only a life lived for others ultimately is a life worthwhile. But now, that don't mean you neglect yourself to the point where you walk out your house and it's snowing. You do get snow here every now and then, and you don't put on those shoes. Now, that's kind of something wrong with that. But I did leave Phoenix once when it was in the 80s to visit my beloved Brother Minister Farrakhan. Got on the plane and realized when the plane was in the air, oh man, I don't have my coat. When I landed, it was another program, weather-wise. So I thank you. Do you see what I just said to you? Master Farad Muhammad had to study to do what he was to do, and so did Elijah Muhammad, and so did Louis Farrakhan. Therefore, we must too. That's the point in a bean shell. I don't say nutshell. A bean shell. Now, what will you be doing Christmas Day? Huh? None of you will participate in the activities, the real activities of Nimrod. That's good. What will you be doing New Year's night? You're going to be working on what? Well, I mean, where would you be? That's what I should have asked you. At your house. Very smart move. With your family. Very intelligent. I intend to sleep, pray, and then go to sleep. I don't give two damns about midnight. And I hope that the crazies who shoot up in the sky, the bullet don't land on my house. Because you got some crazy people. Now, why should that be a night of revelry? Have you ever looked deep into that? Why do people say, this is the time when I'm supposed to get drunk and party? Why? And partying always means death. It always means engaging in acts that kill you. Why is it like that? I hope maybe we can touch on that maybe over the weekend. If not, we get to it Christmas Day. And the last talk I'm scheduled to make this month is due to be in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Jabril of Allah. And I got a lot of things to do between now and then. I hope to be able to write. Maybe I can get started while I'm here, if not Tuesday or Wednesday, on my commentaries on Closing the Gap. I hope to have that book ready in a few days. Sister Minister Ava Muhammad is doing her part, trying to finish up, forming it into a study guide. And somewhere in the book, maybe towards the back or the end of it, I'll simply write my commentary on what I had in my mind, because of what was I trying to accomplish with our brother, with that book, for us. We have to close that gap as rapidly as possible. And there is a gap between us and him, and it's crazy. He can't go backwards. We got to speed up and catch up to him within the sphere of our own activities. Does that make sense? And one of those things is this. Brother Cap and I were talking earlier today about this book, how to win, how to stop worrying and start living. And I can remember I told him 1956 or 57, I think it was. I read the first 16, 17 pages of that book and threw the book down. I haven't picked it up since. I bought it for a lot of other people because I was embarrassed. I said, is that what I'm doing? I threw it down. I don't worry from then to now. Not worry. Think, reason, ponder, focus, concentrate. Worry, no. You can't build anything on worry. You can't solve any problem. You can't worry yourself out of it. And for you sisters in particular, brothers in general, Dale Carnegie's wife wrote a book called How to Help Your Husband Get Ahead. I think that's a book that we all should look at also. Dale Carnegie was a Shriner. He was a student of human nature. And he wrote the book mainly to help Caucasians. Because he said in the book, one time, a little small statement, that he was urging the reader to overcome, in effect, their wicked nature. Winning friends and influencing people. Caucasians who are not by nature good people can benefit from truth and righteousness just like the people who were born of God. And there's a book that I was urging by the minister and the captain. I urge you all to at least get one copy. You don't have to get 1 million copies. Don't spend all that money on that. But get a few copies and put it in your library here. Called Stress and Energy by Linda Page. She's a naturopath. And it costs $9.95. But if you want to get your own copy, it's up to you. But there's some statements in it that are brilliant, based on heavy-duty research that is included. When you have a caring, loving disposition, it helps your whole body. Everything about you improves. When you're nasty, mean, and vicious, and whatnot, that destroys your own body. It literally takes you out of here. And I can remember, you heard it said, no doubt, that it takes less muscles to smile than to frown. You see all these little points I'm making here? Caucasians study. They study. Turn on the Disney Channel. They're out. Different ones of them are in different fields of their own interest. They are studying. They want to know everything about the creation. Then now you see some of them saying, well, we're just a step away from being God Almighty. If we can just get this, if we can just get that. Some of them go down into the life germ, other of them go out in space. They're trying to take what they call the four forces, fundamental forces of nature, the strong force, the weak force, the electromagnetic energy, and gravity. I'm going to put in some article, maybe number 12, a question. Is it possible that there are four forces of nature which, if understood, puts a person in the position of God? Is it possible that these are the physical aspect of four spiritual qualities in the makeup of the Lord of the worlds himself? Since it is mentioned by all the scholars that I've read about so far, there are four fundamental attributes or names of God, all the others of which they say are derivatives of. There are four, are they not? In the prayer, in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. And we call him the master or Lord of the day of acquittal. Is it possible that there is a correspondence deeper than most of us have looked at between the forces of nature and the forces of or in the nature of God himself? The way the Caucasians go after it, they say, well, God maybe, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right, over there. But they are after these laws of nature. Now listen to this. Proof that there is a profound interconnection between the quote-unquote forces of nature and the nature of our being is they could not send anybody to the moon and get back, except to the extent that they duplicate the mathematical formulas that already existed prior to their birth, by which they learn and then they form materials and train the men in accordance with these formulas. They don't violate the laws of nature. They get in tune with them, at least to the extent to send a man or men to the moon and back. Brothers and sisters, what you're studying is the mind of God. Did you hear what I said? You were studying about building the who? Of who? Of self. And who are you from? So what are you studying? You're studying yourself. You're studying God. You're studying God. You're studying yourself. What are you saying? The more you know yourself, the more you know God. The more you know God, the more you know yourself. That can only be if we are directly from him. Now, how are we from him? Tune in Saturday, either 8 or 9 o'clock. What's tomorrow's date? 18. Okay, that's all I want to say. I hope to see you tomorrow morning, and may Allah bless you. If some of you are not on Ramadan and you're scuffling and whatnot, some of you sisters with babies and whatnot, and you need to take water, take it. Don't fall out on the floor. You understand what I'm saying? And if you're on it, you can make it great. What we did last week in Cleveland, we dealt for 9.5 hours. I don't expect to hold you all this long tomorrow. 9.5 hours. We started at 9. We fit 10 past 9 to be exact. But the brother opened up at 9. We finished at about 5 or 6 minutes past 6. We went into the dark, and then we broke out and went and took care of that other business called eating. We had a couple of breaks. I don't remember how long they lasted, but the meeting, we were together that long. I'm not going to hold you that long, maybe only about 6 hours. No, about 4. It may take about 4 hours to do what I want to do. I want to make a broad opening statement and then do something from that statement and then ask you a couple of questions, and that'll be it. I think we can do it in about 4 hours. I hope that you will get, I know it may cost a couple of dollars. I'm not making money off it, but I hope that you will try to get last week. This will be part 7 of a series of points. It involves making a timeline. That's why I asked you to have me long blackboard. I can try to do it with this. But do you have another one in addition to this? How long will it be? Okay, fine. Because the more space I have, the easier it is for you to see what I want to get over. We're going to go from prior to the beginning of time to right now. What is the context? I hope that you walk away from here tomorrow understanding clearly what is the context of our time. You are alive now. Why are you alive now? You are alive now, aren't you? Then are you blessed to be alive now? 200 years ago, a lot of us would have been swinging on the trees. because you just wasn't made to serve these people. They would have just hung you, and you wouldn't have no power to get around it, right? A lot of us wouldn't have made it. Wouldn't have got to 20 years old. The people who tend to accept this teaching tend to be very dissatisfied with this wicked world, and so you rebel. And if the wicked got power, they take you on out of here. That's not a laughing matter either. Or you could be born so far down the road, you have no sense of this particular time. You know what they say about BC and AD? BC means before Christ, and AD means what? Why don't they just say AC? Why not BC-AC? Why not? But that particular time wasn't here 2,000 years ago. It's now. You're living right in, if I can show you. You have a right at the most unique time in history. There will never, ever be a time like this. Never. Why? I hope that you will have your ears wide open. I would appreciate it if you bring a couple of dictionaries. You don't have to bring anything else. You may want to bring some notes. I think you probably will. But I want you to get a good night's sleep. Don't raid your icebox tonight. Don't raid your icebox tonight. Don't raid your icebox. Don't go in the icebox tonight. Don't eat any more tonight. Don't eat anything tonight. Will you do that? I said that how many times? I want you to get the point over. Drink some water. You know, and then maybe I should have told you, Brother Minister, to tell everybody to get eat for about a week in advance some onion. Onions strengthen the nerves. I want you to think, come ready to walk with me through a few simple but important points. But I gotta have a decent. That's really too small. You say they're both going to be double this, and they're going to stand up. Okay, and I'll be able to walk around with the mic, so I can draw what I got to draw, and everybody will be able to see it. That's very important. I thank you so much, my dear brothers and sisters. I don't know how many times since 1993 I've been here, 3 or 4 times, I don't remember. But I appreciate the spirit each time that I'm among you. And we're going to have about how many people out here tomorrow? A whole bunch? All the way to the back of the wall? Okay. Okay, I appreciate that. And all the babies, let them in. The babies will get out whatever they're going to get out. Don't underestimate babies. They start learning almost upon the point of conception. In fact, I may take that back. They learn at the point of conception. And in a sense, even before that, because mother and father, each of them are doing whatever they're doing, and you are informing all the cells in your body as you go throughout your own life. So actually, the education begins prior to birth, in a certain sense. Okay, I thank you very much. May Allah bless you to get home and get back safe tomorrow. And I hope that he blesses me, because I'm certainly going to pray to convey to you. I don't have no details in my head, but I know basically what I want to get across. And I would ask you to pray for me also, and pray for yourself. Let's ask Allah to bless us with an excellent 4 or 5 hours tomorrow. And when you go home, I hope that you will turn this over in your mind and come back Sunday and bring people with you that don't know what you know. Okay? Remember, when you walk in the supermarket tomorrow, sisters and brothers, away, pump gas at the gas station, you're always going to be around some of your people who don't know what you know. And you owe it to them to share their birthright, our collective birthright, with them. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, brothers and sisters, let's give Brother Jabril another round of applause. Not that he's here for applause, he is here to help, and he has done a wonderful job so far ever since we first saw him at the airport. He gets off the plane teaching and giving assignments, and so we'll continue this until he actually gets on the plane again. So thank you for coming out tonight. You did yourself a good service by coming tonight. Be sure you're here tomorrow, and call other brothers and sisters that are not here tonight and ask them to be here tomorrow as well. And so we're going to close the meeting out.